weeks. HSE boss Paul Reid says there are 3 ways over 70s will be able to get their vaccine.
Vast majority of them done through GP practices themselves. The second element will be 3 vaccination centres across the country: Dublin, Cork and Galway. Probably Galway, we're just working through the detail. And then, as Dr. O'Connor described earlier on, where GP practices will buddy up together. Now that's all specifically for the plus 70 age cohort.
And 110 catalytic converters along with tens of thousands in cash have been seized in a Gardai raid in County Meath this morning. The officers also found over €27,000 on the scene, along with £55,000 in sterling. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our best discounts on car insurance online. Go to the aa.ie.
Outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow in the south and west will continue their march northeast this evening. Lowest temperatures tonight of 1 degree to 2 below. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The News Round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
All right, you're welcome along. It's Thursdays Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock. We've got a packed show ahead. John Giles, as always, coming your way at 7:30. Manchester City taking a giant step towards regaining the Premier League title with that weekend victory over Liverpool. We will reflect on that with John. We look at some of the FA Cup games that have been going on as well. After 8 o'clock, former Dublin footballer Shane Carthy won an All-Ireland senior title with Dublin as an 18-year-old. But he has been to the depths of despair since then, and he has written a remarkable book about his recovery, and we're going to talk to him about that after 8 o'clock. And then on the football show, our current Republic of Ireland midfielder and a man who's absolutely flying with Swansea City, Conor Hourhan, is going to join us. 3 goals in 3 league games for him so far. We'll chat about his decision to leave Aston Villa on loan, and we'll also chat about everything that's gone on with the Republic of Ireland over the last 6 months. Vinny Perth with us as well after 9. 53106 is the text number. At Off the Ball if you want to get in touch on our social media. The News Round on Off the Ball and News Talk with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. Richie McCormick, good evening.
How are you, Nathan?
I'm very well. Joe Malloy, good evening.
Nathan, hello.
What is you with such a big smile on your face, Joe Malloy?
Well, I was just thinking, you're in a safe space here. Richie and I, very supportive colleagues. I think in light of Dermot Gallagher's brave efforts last night, it's time for you to unleash your true names.
My true Mayo accent.
Yeah,
I've been putting this on for so long I can't even remember. Now, if you met me in maybe the Boar's Head at about 10 o'clock after an All-Ireland final defeat with a load of Mayo people, I'd say, yes, my voice probably does sound slightly different.
Oh, you can't even understand what you're saying at that stage.
I will hold my hands up. I talk completely different right now from when I first moved to Dublin. It used to annoy me when I would hear myself on the radio not being able to pronounce 33 correctly. So I learned how to say it correctly as much as possible. So maybe I shouldn't have done that. I should have stuck to my roots, but it was just annoying me. So I decided to change it. But Dermot Gallagher, dear God, Joe, you've done, how many years you've been working in this game? You're presenting the Six Nations. You thought you'd done it all. And then actually, the only thing that you'll ever be remembered for, the only thing that will ever get you a million hits online is the fact that Dermot Gallagher has an Irish accent.
That's true. I tweeted earlier that I'm going to have to come to terms with the fact that the scoop of my career is Dermot Gallagher's accent. Hey, look, I'm okay with that. It was an interesting journey because I thought it does sound a bit more. God, it does sound a bit more Dublin than.
Because when did you realise? That's what I was wondering. I was doing that thing last night where I was doing about 3 different things, and I saw the clip came up, and I listened to it, and I thought, that's weird. Maybe I've never actually. Maybe when Dermot Gallagher comes on Sky, maybe I think I'm listening, but I'm not really. At what point in the conversation did you realise, what's going on here?
Certainly a bit earlier, and then. I mean, he became more comfortable in his Dublinness, and it's a strange thing to try and compare your memory of what he sounds like on Sky to when you see the clip side by side afterwards straight away, and it's so apparent that it's so different. So I was kind of trying to work off memory, and like you, look, I wouldn't be one for refereeing slots on television. They kind of aren't my thing, I'd rarely take notice of who the referee is. So I was like, maybe it's just me. Are you a touch more? Your accent survived a bit here, hasn't it? I hadn't fully appreciated the extent to which he's been, completely changing his accent every time he goes on television. And unlike you, I mean, we all change our accent. There's one of me I heard recently from 2008. It sounds like a different person, where you kind of self-correct and listen back to yourself, I guess, the broadcaster. I mean, it's interesting in his case, the Sky producers are like, Dermot, no.
Yeah, he should have told him where to go.
Loads of people do it though, don't they? Like, it's a fairly, like Joe mentioned there, like, as I tweeted out earlier on, if people think the Dermot Gallagher situation is strange, I've got news for you for the majority of people who work in TV and radio, because, like, I'll hold my hands up and say, even if you were to talk to me in the street, my delivery will be slightly different to what you're hearing on air now, which is probably a better or worse thing, depending on it.
Well, you'd be more aggressive if somebody tried to talk to you in the street, Richie, I'd say.
It's true. I won't go near me. But, like, on a general basis, like, my dad, when he used to be on the phone back down to home, he would become 200 to 300% more Meath. And I'm sure you do as well. Like, I'm sure when you're back onto Ballyhonus, when they have the phone lines installed there once a month, that you become slightly more Mayo than you ordinarily would be in your day-to-day conversations. And you kind of adapt your voice to suit your situation. And people, like, even somebody described it as on Twitter to me, your voice inside the house and your voice when you answer the door, you become a slightly different person. So it's just the fact that Dermot has to modulate to suit his environment, and that environment being English TV, makes it a little bit more pronounced. But I don't think it's that uncommon.
Yeah, it's just how pronounced it was. It's the thickest Dublin accent. Like, it's Ronnie Drew.
Well, someone said he's like Ronnie Drew after a bowl of coddle. What's going on here?
I wonder, is he aware of this reaction? Has he got back in touch?
He must be, because it's like on the Daily Mail Online. It's on.
Hold on a second. Has Joe Malloy made Daily Mail Online?
No, I'm going to track this guy down. He wrote
the presenter.
I'm going to
go to the comments section.
He wrote the presenter asked.
And this.
Well, you're going to be mentioned in the comments though.
Like, Joe Malloy lying in bed at night, the last thing he does is check the Daily Mail Online.
Well, the showbiz section.
Showbiz section. Yeah. Oh, that is a real shame.
511 shares, 67 comments in the Daily Mail section.
Any of them about the presenter?
That's
not, yeah.
That's what I'm checking for.
Is this really where you want to go? While you're doing that, Richie, I shall let you in on some big news, Richie, because it is a Thursday, which means, we must have our obligatory chat about Golf Weekly, even though we did talk about Jordan Spieth last night. But we have some big Golf Weekly news for all you listeners. We are on the move, because from March 11th, 1 month from now, the four of us, that's myself, Joe, Fionn and Peter, along with some added friends and some added content, are moving to Patreon. So we love our friends of the pod so much that we want to give you more and more Golf Weekly. That's right, Richie. More and more Golf Weekly. A guaranteed pod every single Thursday, because, hands up, those somebody at the start of this made a foolish error of calling it Golf Weekly, which made a commitment that I think people have struggled to maintain over the last decade or so. But we're guaranteeing a podcast every Thursday. We're guaranteeing Monday review shows after the biggest tournaments, after the majors, after the Ryder Cup. We're going to have some big interviews thrown in throughout the year as well, every few weeks, with some of the best names in golf. You will be an actual friend of the pod, so there's various different ways you can now get in touch with us. We are going to bring you major Sunday watch parties where you can go to Joe Malloy's house. Joe Malloy will turn his Zoom on the Sunday of a major, and we'll all sit down together online and watch it. And when golf returns, which can, please God, only be a matter of weeks away, you will have first dibs on our world-famous Golf Weekly golf days once we're allowed back on tour. We're going to have a soon-to-be-revealed PGA Tour player who's going to give us a Life on Tour segment as well. So we got loads of stuff coming up. All you got to do is head over to otbsports.com/Golf Weekly. You can sign up right now for $3.99 a month, or just search for Golf Weekly on patreon.com. You can sign up now, but you won't be charged till it actually starts on March 11th, and then you'll get the first one and everything that goes with it. Richie is online right now, Joe, signing up.
Yeah. There's no mention of Joe Malloy among the comments in the Daily Mail, which is slightly disappointing.
That could have brought us to another level with the old Golf Weekly Patreon there, Joe.
I figure so, yeah.
Day one.
That's a relief. Those comments are never kind.
You could be Daily Mail famous, which is a different level entirely.
There's no higher level, is there?
Where do the Daily Mail level of comments rank compared to, say, the YouTube level of comments?
I'd say even worse. Yeah. I'd say really bad. Okay. Really bad.
They're saying stuff here like, if Ireland is so great, why don't you stay there? And apropos of nothing, because this person, Mark in Melbourne, clearly has an issue saying, Wait till you hear Sturgeon's Russian twang. So I think he's alluding to the fact that Nicola Sturgeon might well be in cahoots with Vladimir Putin. Proof of that, I don't think we're yet to have.
Am I allowed to have my traditional major Sunday glass of wine when we're having our watch-alongs?
Oh, I think that'd help, wouldn't it? I think
that's a
vibe
prerequisite.
We want,
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. That was the only thing I was concerned about with that commitment.
Well, if nothing else, drunk Nathan Murphy talking in his Mayo accent about golf.
Well, that goes viral. Who knew? Who knew? 53106 is the text number. The latest Golf Weekly is up online right now. You guessed it, it's a bit of a Jordan Spieth love-in, though Peter Lowry did his best to bring us right back down to earth. Richie will give us the latest, I'm sure, in what's happening in Pebble Beach, where Jordan Spieth is playing in just a couple of minutes. But Richie, where are you starting?
The FA Cup, the quarter-final lineup is going to be completed tonight. There was a 5:30 start to the first of this evening's games. So just 7 minutes to go at Molyneux, where it's Wolves 0, Southampton 1. Danny Ings breaking the offside trap at Molyneux to give the Saints the lead there. At 8 o'clock, Barnsley are looking to maintain their oddly immaculate record against Chelsea in the Cup. The Championship side have never lost a tie to their Premier League opponents, and kick-off at Oakwell is at 8 p.m. The sixth round draw is going to be made in between tonight's two games, and in the all-important Club World Cup final in Qatar, with 9 minutes into the second half, it's still Bayern Munich 0, Tigres 0. As you alluded to there, Nathan, Seamus Parr is in action at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am Golf. He is 1 under par through his first 5 holes there this evening. Nate Lashley, as my light falls down, is 6 under par through 8 holes, and he's 1 clear in turn of Russell Knox and Bronson Burgoon.
Do you need to get that sorted out?
You talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to plop this back
calamitous there. So last night there was a 5-4 and I only caught bits of it. There's nothing more disappointing. You watch so much rubbish football and then you miss the big game. And so Spurs knocked out Jose Mourinho. It was a bizarre Mourinho. Did you see any of his post-match press conference last night where he was far more chirpier and cheerier than he normally is when his side are beaten? Almost a sense of just resignation at this stage from Mourinho.
Yeah, I saw him talking about Gareth Bale as well. That didn't sound great. He was asked why Bale wasn't around, and he was making the point that Bale was on the bench at the weekend, didn't play at all. And then Bale complained of a muscular problem the next day at training on the Monday and said he needed to get an MRI, and then had the MRI, and there doesn't seem to be an obvious issue according to Mourinho, but Bale has said he now needs time off to strengthen whatever the muscular issue is, and I thought there was a fairly withering look in his face. Yeah, there certainly was. So there's FA Cup games on this evening. We'll keep a close eye on them. And as I say, on the football show, we're going to chat with Conor Hourhan and with Vinnie Perth as well. Last night, Richie, just as we were coming on air, the news was breaking around another delay to the return of the GAA. There's been, can I just call it clarity today on what's happening? Or is it just more confusion?
I think what we've had is a little bit more context to the decision made by the GAA yesterday after talks with the government. The GAA say they're hoping that the Allianz Leagues can be staged despite the delay to the inter-county calendar. There will be no matches or training until Easter at the earliest because of the COVID-19 crisis. Meanwhile, inter-county games are no longer permitted under Level 5 coronavirus restrictions. This is despite the fact that last year's All-Ireland Championships were allowed to run between October and December under Level 5 restrictions. But the GAA Director of Communications, Alan Milton, told News Talk Breakfast this morning that the government decision is no real surprise.
I think what happened, a lot of people may presume that the exemption we had received last winter had automatically carried over. And while we were operating on that basis ourselves, it doesn't come as any real surprise because we were always going to have to go back into negotiations or discussions with the health authorities and with the government to see if they were happy for us to return. The issue of the League of Ireland is really one for them and one for the government, but I think the fact that their organisation has an international dimension to it that we don't have, at least not in the same configuration, means that there are differences in how that will be applied. And don't forget, this is not just the GAA, this is all sport when it comes to elite status. So that's the way our organisation is configured, and I suppose the big disappointment for anybody who's involved with club is that it's the uncertainty for the masses. It's not just the inter-county game, but there'll be nothing happening until early April, and that's a big disappointment, especially for young people and children who currently don't have access to school.
Yeah, that's Alan Milton there talking earlier. I think all that makes perfect sense. There's been a lot of the usual back and forth of why would the League of Ireland be allowed to resume? How is that any different now? I guess we should remember that rugby and provincial rugby has been continuing all the way through this. There is no perfect answer. You just wish that there was some sort of timeline that everyone could get behind. But maybe, Joe, at the moment, that putting a timeline out there just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? It's just more very disappointing news. There's no two ways about it. I don't really hold anybody accountable or to blame for it. Clearly, as Alan Milton said there, the level 5 was for last year and where we were last year, and we're dealing with a different strain now, seems to be the reality. It's what we're hearing from all medical professionals. People are catching this thing more often and they're getting sicker when they do catch it. And so it's not a straightforward decision, but you can understand why they're making it. The one obvious benefit to the GAA is they're in complete control of their own ecosystem. Like most other sports are rushing to finish something so something else can happen, i.e. Premier League, so that the Euros can happen. GAA control everything. You'd still be very hopeful that there's enough time in the calendar to finish everything. Bad case scenario, the Allianz Leagues have to go. Maybe worst case scenario, bar the whole thing having to be scrapped. That doesn't seem on the cards at all. But worst case scenario might be a similar inter-county championship to last year, which, again, it's not ideal, but it's something. I don't know. We're just in that spot at the moment. It feels very grim right now, and the projections for how long we're going to live with all this are particularly grim. So not surprising news. What can you do? Is there uproar about this? I don't
think so. I think there's just a general frustration that, and again, everyone looks at their own situation, whether it's kids or players or just people who like and enjoy watching it on television. And I guess as well, if we are in a situation come June where we're still not able to get back playing sport, we're probably going to have greater issues than sport not returning. That while we're in level 5 right now, April feels a long way away. That you would hope that, and I think already conversations are happening, that most sports are going to continue through the summer, even though they were traditionally, say, winter to summer sports. So if you're missing out, you should hopefully be able to get it back. Richie, some awards in ladies football?
Yeah, just before we get to that, Bayern Munich have taken the lead in that Club World Cup final through Benjamin Pavard. They had originally had a goal disallowed by VAR for offside for Joshua Kimmich earlier on in the game, but Pavard has found the benefit of VAR. As you mentioned there, Nathan, Dublin duo Sinead Goldrick and Carla Rowe have been nominated for the TG Carr Players Player of the Year award, both part of the Dublin team that won a 4th All-Ireland title in December. Armagh's Amy Mackin makes up that shortlist, while Meath's Emma Duggan and Vicky Wall are up for Intermediate Player of the Year, with Westmeath's Fiona Claffey. Junior champions from Mana have 2 players on that shortlist, with Joanne Doonan and Emer Smith in contention, alongside Wicklow's Maeve Deeney. The LGFA have announced that TG Carr will air the award ceremony on Saturday, the 27th of February. Promoter Eddie Hearn says Daniel Kinahan is drawing the wrong kind of attention to boxing. The Dubliner has admitted to his continued involvement in the sport following the broadcast of a BBC Panorama documentary. Kinahan has no criminal convictions, but was named in the High Court in 2018 as a senior figure in organised crime on an international scale. And speaking to the Opening Bell podcast, Hearn says he's dealt with Kinahan, obviously in negotiations for that Tyson Fury-Anthony Joshua fight, but adds that Kinahan's public profile is now bad news for the sport.
Yeah, and again, more pressure today been put on Sky around whether or not that they will broadcast these fights.
That's as damning as Eddie Hearn has been, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
He has rarely spoken out on this. So, it is, I think, an intervention from Eddie Hearn probably for the first time. And again, it's going to raise more questions, I think, with the broadcasters as much as anybody else as to how they proceed with this.
To be fair, he did clarify he was talking about that fight in particular, the Joshua Fury one, and he says there are only minor details left to be sorted out contractually for that fight to go ahead, or those fights, since it's a 2-fight deal. But this documentary and the talk around Kinahan isn't going to put a stop to that fight going ahead, or those fights going ahead, it would seem. I don't think even the pressure that's being put on the broadcasters is going to call a halt to this, because I think they're covered already by certain deals that are in place. So it's going to be broadcast, it's going to be shown. It's how boxing and how the broadcasters and how the promoters deal with Kinahan going forward from that is the bone of contention. But I don't think Fury Joshua is going to be affected by it in the slightest.
No, I wouldn't have thought so either. I mean, too many people want it to happen. There's too much money at stake. And even if even if they weren't covered contractually, as you're saying, Rich, they'd find a way to make it happen, because it's just too big. Yeah. That ship, the Fury Joshua ship, has sailed. It's about the next 18 months, 24 months.
Yeah, a lot more to come on this, and we'll be covering it, I'm sure, in depth over the coming days and the coming weeks here and Off the Ball. Just to let you know that all this week we're giving away a €300 Aldi voucher in celebration of Valentine's week. Love in lockdown may be a little different this February 14th, but some things stay the same. So if you're planning to cook an award-winning steak, buy a bottle of bubbly, or wait for it, pick up the perfect, what do we got here?
Oh my God.
Bouquet of roses.
You're a disgrace.
Oh my Lord.
Just drop into one of the 145 Aldi stores nationwide. Who's to say begging on air doesn't get you anywhere? These are the showstopper bouquet, Joe. I don't want to cause a war in the office, but 2 of them arrived in, and JP, our producer, has gone off with one of them.
Wow.
What?
There'll be words about that. There will be words about
what,
that.
Did the former Bachelor of the Year?
The former Bachelor of the Year, no more.
What does he need with them?
Well, he's a changed man. COVID has changed him. It's made him reassess his priorities in life. And he is no longer as eligible as he once was for... Sorry, he didn't win Bachelor of the Year. He came second. So let's
sorry, of course.
No,
Yeah.
is he shaking his head? Did you win it?
No, he won it.
Oh, he won it. I apologise.
Yeah,
I've never seen him look as outraged as he does out there right now. Sorry. So anyways...
That's top of his LinkedIn page.
You know, if you come into the office, Joe, you would have got them. Anyways, let's make sure this doesn't go out in social media. So, and anybody listening, don't tell my wife so that I can, bring these home and claim it as my own. Anyways, you can get them yourself at any one of the 145 Aldi stores nationwide. To be in with a chance of winning, that is that €300 Aldi voucher. Just to identify tonight's sports star. Here's your clue, and remember, it's got a Valentine's and romance theme. This Zimbabwean footballer played for Coventry and Birmingham City in the late 90s and early 2000s. JP's really not trusting the listeners to get this. His first name was Peter, and you could say he loved football.
Oh, yeah. Ray Stubbs did a great version of his name as well.
Oh, really? I must check it out. You can't give it to us without giving the
hunting
answer.
down online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Text your name and answer to 53106 for 30 cents, and we'll announce the winner at the end of the show. It's all with thanks to Aldi. If you're planning on getting married later this year or next year, check out their Twitter channel where they're giving away $5.5 grand worth of flowers and wine in their Walking Up the Aisle competition. What day is Valentine's Day? Sunday. 3 days. They'll last till Sunday, won't they? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Stick them in water straight away.
I remember a picture of Dermot Gallagher at the World Cup in Japan and Korea, in with all the Irish fans, green jersey on.
Yeah.
I've seen that today. That's
today
doing
as well.
on Twitter. Yeah. Because he got special dispensation before the World Cup in 2002 to referee Ireland-Russia as a World Cup warm-up. And we didn't get into it last night, but I was reading about it in advance of the chat. And this was like his greatest honour, his dream realised. He'd grown up, a couple of 400 metres from the stadium. So he did actually ref an Ireland game in 2002 and then was there at the World Cup as a supporter.
Brilliant. Richie, we've got 40 seconds for Richie McCormick's Australian Open roundup.
Defending women's champion Sophia Kenin, the big casualty on day 4. The 4th seed lost her second round match in straight sets to the world number 65, Kaya Kanepi. Coco Gauff's run also came to an end. The 16-year-old beaten in straights by the 5th seed Elina Svitolina, but wins today both in straight sets for top seed Ashley Barty and the 6th seed Karolina Pliskova. Men's 2nd seed Rafa Nadal will face England's Cameron Norrie in round 3 after a straight sets win over Michael Mmoh, and the 4th seed Daniil Medvedev and his fellow Russian Andrei Rublev, seeded 7th, are both through to the 3rd round. And Southampton are through to the 6th round of the FA Cup. They've beaten Wolves by 2-0 at Molineux.
All right, Richie, great stuff as always. Joe, I apologise, take it up with JP or just go and spend the bloody money.
That's theft on JP's part.
Listen, that's the way these things go. All right, Joe Malloy, thank you as always. That is Thursday's news round. Coming up, we're going to talk to Shane Carthy after 8 o'clock about his new book, Dark Blue. We'll have Conor Howrahan and Vinnie Perth on the football show. But it is almost 7:30 on a Thursday. So up next, it's John Giles.
The news round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
Calling all builders, joiners, plasterers and dryliners. Need advice on the right materials for the job? Consider it done. You need them on site and in your hand. Consider it done. You want access to over 10,000 products from the leading construction brands without having to start up the van. Consider it done. There's another way of doing